And he brings it up during the debates, and it's the Streisand effect. And he knows it, and it's working. And he's genius for doing it. I don't care what you say. So welcome to the show, everybody. As you know, my name is Joker. I share all the news you didn't know you needed to know. And on days like today, if you're not talking about immigration, you're not on the internet, because that's what everybody's talking about. And Trump brought it right to the front of everything by 4D chess. I don't care what you say. He's a smart man. He knows what he's doing. I finished the studio here. I'm going to put that up, how I framed the building and everything else I did. I'm going to put that up over on Locals. So it was worth taking the week off, and now we'll be back to streaming as normal. Today we're going to talk about the immigration issue. We're going to talk about woke gaming. Going woke destroyed Ubisoft and destroyed Rocksteady and destroyed a couple other companies. And then we're going to talk about some mail-in, but we're going to have some mail-in voting issues, of course, because that's what we do. So let me, we'll get right into it. But thank you for your patience while I took the week off to get everything taken care of. Before we jump right into it, let me give a thanks to today's sponsor, which is TNUSA. So thank you to the sponsor. It's, as you know, tax season's over and done with, but the IRS is ramping up. And they say, are you struggling with back taxes or unfiled returns? The IRS is escalating collections, adding 20,000 new agents, and sending over 5 million collection letters to kick off 2024. In these challenging times, your best defense is Tax Network USA. Don't let the IRS take advantage of you. With over 14 years of experience, Tax Network USA has saved their clients over $1 billion in back taxes. No matter the size of your tax issue, their expertise is your advantage. They specialize in negotiating with the IRS, aiming to significantly reduce your debt. Tax Network USA doesn't just negotiate, they also protect your assets from the IRS seizures and manage your yearly returns for ongoing compliance. Importantly, they're licensed to help with all the state tax issues, regardless of where you live in the United States. The clock is ticking. Don't wait as the IRS steps up its game, seize control of your financial future. Now, contact Tax Network USA for immediate relief and expert guidance. Call 1-800-958-1000 or visit tnusa.com/bachelor. Don't let tax issues overpower you. Turn to Tax Network USA and find your path to financial peace of mind. All right, so immigration. Trump did his 4D chest, and bam, now they roasted him during the debates, and now everybody's paying attention to it. 4D chess on Trump. This is from Real Clear Politics. Trump's on illegal immigration at the debate. They're eating the pets. I'm going to play this clip for us.
Have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country. And it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to.
All right. He got he got off track a little bit. He got baited during the debate. And I did my debate stream, so I'm not going to rehash all of that. But this is from Real Clear Politics. Donald Trump discussed controversial claims that Haitian refugees in Springfield, Ohio, are eating people's pets and ducks from the park during the debate on Tuesday night. I just clicked close. Why are you not closing? Thank you. They reprint his quote out. David Muir from ABC News, who is the moderator / co-debater with Kamala Trump, said, I just want to clarify here. You bring up the Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did research out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or misused by individuals in the immigrant community. Now, I have a question for you. If they ask that question, and how did they know to counter his statement if they didn't have the statement beforehand? Like, how did they know they needed to have this pre-fact checked before the debate? That's my question. I'm kind of curious on that. So they probably had somebody in the moderator's ear and said, we've looked into this. This isn't correct. That's X. But they were live fact checking Trump, and they weren't doing it to Kamala because she said the find people on two sides hoax and the bloodbath hoax and many others. Well, Trump said this, and if you notice, I'm reading a story about it now. But it doesn't just stop there. And these are all this is 28 minutes ago, this story came out. And this is why Trump said what he said. Because if he just said, we're going to fix immigration. Oh, you know what? I should start recording this. Damn it. If Trump just came out and said, hey, we've got these issues with immigration, etc., people already have heard that before. It's not, quote unquote, dystopian. It's not news breaking. No one's going to sit down and research on their computer to find out the truth about immigration because they got busy lives. But if you say something so crazy as Springfield, Ohio resident are now losing their pets and ducks and geese, and well, that's brilliant. That's brilliant because now people are going to say, wait, what is he talking about? That's crazy. The left-leaning media will jump into hyperdrive to prove him wrong. The right media will jump in to prove him right. And before you know it, everybody's talking about it. This is why so many people say Trump plays 4D chess. Well, this is from Fox News as of 28 minutes ago. Springfield, Ohio residents detail dystopian nightmare as Haitian migrants overrun town. It breaks my heart. They say a Springfield, Ohio resident sounded the alarm about the city's Haitian migrant surge, warning her community it's like a dystopian nightmare as it struggles to provide basic resources for taxpayers. Springfield resident Diana Daniels joins Fox and Friends to describe what life has been like in recent years since thousands of Haitians, 20,000 to be exact, have been transported to their city, starving it of resources like housing and healthcare, while also having an impact on public safety. Now, would Fox and Friends be interviewing Diana Daniels from Springfield, Ohio, about immigration if Trump didn't mention this? No, of course not. They wouldn't be reaching out to her. They wouldn't be looking into it. That's why Trump says ridiculous things. He knows how the media works. He knows how salacious and thirsty they are to tear him down. And so he simply uses it to his advantage. And just like that, since the debate of 2 nights ago, everything's gone through the roof. Everybody's talking about this now. The woman says it's like living in a dystopian nightmare. I hope you hope to wake up and it's 2019 again, and then you realize it's 2024, and the same thing over and over again, day after day. It's hard sometimes to get up in the morning and hear residents that I've known for years struggle. This is a paycheck to paycheck kind of town, working class. The citizens that depend on our social services like healthcare, the Rocking Horse Community Health Center, going down to the Social Security office for benefits, are waiting in line and they're not getting the services they need. It breaks my heart to see people that I taught and their children experiencing this. So I took it upon myself to make sure that I showed up at every city commission pleading our case, she continued. Now, I can continue to read down, but I actually have firsthand accounts of interviews that are being posted over on X, and we're going to talk about that. And now you've got Fox News reporting on it. You've got CNN reporting on it. You've got other places that are talking about it, either trying to debunk it and failing, or talking about it, and actually people are realizing, hey, he's actually onto something. This is from Frank Luntz. He's got, he says, a factory CEO in Springfield, Ohio. Now, this is going to give the positive spin on the immigration. And it's always good to hear both sides. It's 6 minutes long. I'm not playing all 6 minutes. But you do want to hear what people that think this is a good thing, you do want to hear from their side to understand why they think it's a good thing. And we can say, hey, you know something? This isn't a bad thing necessarily in all cases, but they never attach the negative because that would go against their opportunity for their propaganda. So let's listen to what Frank Luntz said. And this is from PBS NewsHour, which of course is left-leaning, and they want to get their point across.
Mirsu says he came to Springfield for the same reason most Haitians did. He heard that housing was cheap and jobs were plentiful.
It started slowly. We had an application pool that was a little bit different.
People coming to work here.
People looking for jobs. What he's welding here again are welded axle components.
Jamie McGregor is the CEO of McGregor Metal, which makes welded parts for the auto and farm industries. Right now, about 10% of his workforce is Haitian, over 30 employees.
I wish I had 30 more. Our Haitian associates come to work every day. They don't have a drug problem. They'll stay at their machine. They'll achieve their numbers. They are here to work. And so in general, that's a stark difference from what we're used to in our community.
McGregor acknowledges the sudden arrival of so many new immigrants is a challenge on multiple fronts, but he believes this is partly how the industrial Midwest can regrow.
We want more jobs in our community. And in order to fill those jobs, some jobs need to be people who are not originally from here.
There's things in the last 5 years that have really changed and has been a forward improvement for Springfield, but this is taxing the resources of the city.
Now, let me pause here for a second. Now, understand that this guy owns a business, and he says he's struggling with finding people that show up to work on time, that don't have, addictions and addiction problems. And so these new people that are coming here, they're hard workers. Okay, that's great. That's fine. But what happened, and I do have another segment on this, where it actually pushes back, because what they're saying, and this is the same thing that happens to the Black community or the Latino communities. They say these communities have a problem, so we're just going to throw money at it, or we're just going to ignore it, or we're just going to not talk about it. We're not going to address it. And so when you have a community where a lot of people are maybe troubled by addiction, or it's so poor and things aren't going well, do you think bringing in, the population's 50,000 some odd people, do you think bringing in 20,000 more people will fix that? Let's say that these people, the Haitians in this case, are very hardworking, good people that show up to work on time and do their job. What happens to the people they displace? I mean, where are they going to go for work? What are they going to do? Because not only are you going to displace the bad workers that you couldn't find, you're going to realize that these Haitians will work for much less money, that 10 of them will live in bunk beds in an apartment and will pay exorbitant fees for rent, which means the rent will go up because these Haitians have no problems living. And it's not me saying this. I have video clip of it that I'm going to be playing where they have no problems sleeping 8 to 10 in a room. So they'll take less money. They'll pay more for rent because it's split up. They're getting government assistance. And with this assistance, they're doing quite well for themselves. So the locals get displaced. Now, what happens when 20,000 people will not agree to work for the same prices that the Haitians will, that can't afford or don't want to live 5, 8, 10 people to a small apartment so they can pay the $2,500 in rent, going up from $700 in rent? And again, I'm not pulling any of this out. I've got video that I'm going to relate to. What happens? Well, now those other 20,000 people that have been displaced, either the Haitians go on government assistance or the other 20,000 people do. And what happens is all of a sudden you've got government cashing out tens of millions or billions of dollars to prop up these communities. And when you keep looking at the inflation, I will tell you right now, I've listened to some very educated mathematicians, physicists, immigration specialists, economists, stock market specialists, you name it. I've been listening to them all week while I've been working on my building here and taking a little time off. Every one of them says we will collapse as a country due to the dollar, our spending, the BRICS nations overprinting money, the immigration and not being able to pay for the people that are coming here, that it's going to be, we're going to get collapsed because of our finances, because of the debt, because of the inflation. That's what's really going to run us in. And now when you talk about we have pricing of housing out of control and that the real job numbers are not 4.6% because people are picking up part-time jobs, so that's moving the dollars. People that are on government assistance are being counted as positive GDP. That's what's going to take this down. We're going to get into that, but I want you to be aware of it because we're hearing the fluffy positive side, but we're not hearing from the people that are being replaced by the Haitians and the people that are struggling because of this. And we'll get to the negative side of this in a moment.
Well, afterwards.
Springfield's mayor, Rob Rue, says he was cautiously optimistic when the first Haitians settled in town. But then their numbers quickly rose. The city estimates 12 to 15,000 Haitians are here now.
The infrastructure of the city, our safety forces, our hospitals, our schools. Springfield is a close community and has a big heart. But at the same point, we've had this influx that has taxed all these services.
The number of students needing English language help has quadrupled in 5 years. Translators at the local health center cost hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And last year was the busiest year on record for the fire department. But it seemed that for the community at large, the increase in immigration and its stresses largely flew under the radar.
So I just say this, these problems largely flew under the radar. Now, they have a little bit more to this. So, the PBS paints this as a good thing. We have challenges, but it's a good thing. It's a good thing this is happening. And the governor says, well, it's putting stress on our infrastructure, but it's a good thing. And the business owner, well, these people are showing up and they're hard workers. And they might actually be. But you can't just jump up the population of a small Ohio town that doesn't have a lot of manufacturing, that doesn't have a lot of jobs. See, when jobs are good and people can get good pay and people have a good standard of life and things are going well for them, they tend to have families. They tend to have children. They tend to be in relationships. They tend to work hard. But what happens when you feel that you work and you can't get ahead, or the jobs aren't paying as much and you can get on the government dole and make as much money? Well, you're going to do that. And what happens when you're sitting around bored all day and unhappy and feeling bad about your life? You might get caught up in illicit substances or crime or other things. Well, this comes from Charlie Kirk. He just posted this yesterday afternoon. He said, breaking, Ohio Governor Mike DeWine is now sending state troopers into Springfield, Ohio, along with millions in funding to address the Haitian migrant crisis there, saying, quote, the federal government has not demonstrated that they have any kind of plan to deal with the issue. What happened to the residents of Springfield is criminal. A town of 50,000 Americans does not deserve to be inundated by 20,000 foreigners, ever. Heads need to roll. He has the full statement here. I won't read through the whole thing, but this is a statement from Ohio Governor Mike DeWine. He said, I want the people of Springfield and Clark County to know that as we move forward, we will continue to do everything we can to help the community deal with the surge of migrants. The federal government has not demonstrated they have any kind of plan. The influx of Haitians to Springfield and Clark County has significantly impacted local primary care providers due to the increased number of patients and the need for more translation services. In general, migrants from Haiti have little to no health care services prior to arriving in the United States, including vaccinations. And now they have an HIV problem in Springfield, Ohio. The Governor DeWine announced today that he's dedicating $2.5 million toward expanding primary care access. Well, that's tax money. That's your tax money. And if they don't have it, they print it. Now, granted, Ohio can't print it, but it means Ohio's going to get in trouble. Ohio turns to the federal government for help. And if it's a Democrat-led federal government, what does the Democrat federal government say to Ohio? If you want our financial help, you need to make sure that there's transing of the kids in schools. You need to make sure that if there's a vaccine mandate, you need to go through with it. You are now beholden to the federal government's whims. I don't care what your constituents in your state say. You're beheld to the financial, and this is why you see governors and mayors and people in your state that might be heavily Republican or maybe not, at least not on board with the current federal government, selling you out. And you say, why are we getting sold out? Why aren't they doing what we elected them to do? Because they need money. They need money inside the state to handle a problem that the federal government created. It's a very simple case where it's a federal government problem. They create the problem. Then they tell you they have the fix for the problem, but you need to be dependent on them. He said to address the increase in dangerous driving in Springfield by inexperienced Haitian drivers and all others who disregard traffic laws, Governor DeWine directed Ohio State Highway Patrol to support the Springfield Police Department with traffic enforcement. Beginning tomorrow morning, OSHP troopers will patrol local roads. Increase a school-based health clinic. I need let's just do this as we're talking about this. We're sending $2.5 million to expand primary care access. We're sending more state police, and we're going to hire more state police to solve the problem. We're creating a new school-based health clinic. We're increasing support for vaccinations and health screenings. We're allocating additional funds to the Clark County Department of Job and Family Services for translation services. We're providing funding to Clark State College for services to teach English to Haitians. We're providing driving simulators, offering driver education. We're working with the Springfield School District to maximize existing resources and provide ongoing support to deal with the surge. Do you not see where this is going? Does nobody see where this is going? We can say, look, this is a problem, and we can fix it, but it's going to cost money. And that money is your taxes. And we're already deeply, deeply in debt as a country. This is soul crushing to people. I have this link that I'm going to play. So this comes from Insurrection Barbie. This woman is reading a statement. Now, let me back this up. This is from a statement from a former Ohio State representative. This is coming from somebody that was in as a state rep in Ohio, and they're now retired. I don't think she reads their names, but he's talking about what's actually going on. So if you looked at how it was explained by PBS, it's good, they're good workers, they're good people, and they might be good people. But when you do immigration, if the cultures are very similarly aligned, for example, Ukrainians fleeing the Russian-Ukraine war, millions of Ukrainians went over the border into Poland. Well, Poland and Ukraine, there were, like when I visited Poland, when I visited Ukraine, I was in both those countries as I traveled around the world. There were a lot of Ukrainian workers in Poland. There were some Polish workers in Ukraine. The countries work together very well because they have very similar outlooks on life and views and values, and so they're very similar. So you can have an influx of millions and millions of immigrants very quickly when the civilizations are similar. But the more that they're different, the more that they don't have the same values, you have to bring in way less, and you have to bring many, like a much smaller amount. This is why the migrants that are coming in from, for example, I don't know, this is why maybe the Latinos are doing much better immigrating into the United States, because a lot of them are Catholics. Yes, they have language barriers, but a lot of them are hard workers. A lot of them are blue collar workers, right? And they will, once they learn the language barrier, they can integrate pretty well into the United States. However, when you take somebody from the Middle East or from China or in this case Haiti, they can't make that transition very quickly. And so when you do a large number of them, they form their own communities within a community and they don't assimilate to the society around them. So I'm gonna bring this lady up full screen. I've got to go see who just pulled up. Let me go check on that. I'm gonna play this for a minute, and I'll let you guys hear it. I'll be back in just a second here.
Hey, I just saw this on my Facebook page because I am fairly local to Springfield, Ohio. So I'm going to read something to you. My name is Kyle Kaler, and I am a former state representative for Springfield, Ohio, and the Clark County area. I am currently a candidate for the state Senate covering Clark, Greene, and Clinton counties. Over the last 4 years, Haitians who are crossing the border or in fact flown to our country as refugees have been given temporary protected status by the federal government. Under the Biden-Harris administration, they not only are protected, but they are given between $600 to $1,600 a month on debit cards through the Refugee Cash Assistance Program and allowed access to all public assistance programs available to U.S. citizens. Since early 2020, a temporary staffing company in Springfield started actively bringing Haitian refugees to our city. First a few hundred, then thousands. As of this month, our local Job and Family Services has registered over 20,000 Haitian refugees in our county and city. Springfield, which had a steady population of about 58,000, now has an additional 20,000 new residents in and around Springfield, 20,000 people in just under 4 years. Our public school system, with just over 8,000 students, suddenly has over 1,600 non-English speaking students. 19-year-old Haitian men and women are being enrolled as high school freshmen and are in a class with 13-year-old boys and girls. The staffing company that started this migration, in quotation marks, is owned by a man that has over 63 rental properties in the Springfield area. Instead of getting the normal $600 to $800 in rent each month, he rents cots for $250 a month to as many as 20 to 25 Haitians per home. He charges them $25 for round trips to work each day. They work under contracts preventing them from being hired full-time at their place of employment. This and the barrier of not speaking English causes them to become basically indentured servants, in my opinion.
See, this is the big thing that a lot of people are not talking about. And this is what's happening in many of these areas. It's what's happened in Aurora, Colorado, to the point where the manager actually got chased off. They come in, and these services, like businesses, will hire them, and because they do it as a contract, and because technically they're here illegally, many times they're paid either under the table, or in this case, they're paid above the table, but it forces 10 or 15 of them in a room, increases the price of rent for citizens that aren't getting any like additional funding. So if you're getting $600 to $1,600 from the government and you can find a job, well, there's people that are, and they're American citizens, they're American businesses that take advantage of these poor people. And here's the, look, I'm going to say this, and it's controversial, but it shouldn't be. Some of the immigrants that come here are good people. Yes, some of them are quote unquote fighting age males. But they're also, I know if I was a 25-year-old guy or an 18 or 22-year-old guy, and I heard a country that was 1,000 times richer than I am is accepting people to come to work, and I get a plane flight paid for by these NGOs and these government entities to fly me to this country, and I'll be placed in some place where I can get a job. And in the meantime, back in Haiti, my family's eating mud cakes. That's literally mud mixed with fat and a bit of protein or corn or whatever it is they mix it with. I'm going to do that. And if I'm told, hey, you got to tear up your passport and throw it away so they'll let you in, just say that you're fleeing from a war-torn country, I'm going to do that. So all of this I don't put on the migrants. Some of them I do. Yes, there are criminal elements that are being let out of Venezuelan jails and other jails, and they're being told, throw away your passport, cross the border, and if you ever come back, we'll arrest you or whatever. Yeah, I'm going to flee to that country. So we're getting the good with the bad. The problem is, without any vetting, we're getting a crap ton of bad. And that's what people are focusing on. But, and I do have a couple stories, because this is a big immigration video that I want to do today. So yeah, we are getting the bad, and the bad stand out. But these are, and I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, because the employer said they're showing up to work on time, they're good hard workers, they're meeting the quotas I need, which is great, but are they being taken advantage? And she's saying, look, they have to pay for food, they have to pay for their housing, they have to pay for busing to get to and from work, to the point that they don't have enough money that they'll never get ahead. They become indentured servitudes. Now, this is another 6-minute video. I'm not going to play through all of it, because she touches on many of the issues that I'm going to get to. But I don't know, I stepped away for a minute. I don't know if she talked about this. The clinics are being over-inundated with people now with tuberculosis, with people with HIV, because they're coming here and they've never had vaccines. So they are bringing in diseases that are kind of novel for us, and now you need medical services to pay for it, which means you need nurses. And they're thinking, well, this is great, because it not only are these migrants working, but now we need more staff for hospitals, and we need more doctors, and we need more nurses, and we need more linguists, and look at all these jobs we're creating. But in the meantime, the poorest people of this community are getting hurt. The blue-collar workers, and in some cases, what about the Latinos that came here for the work? What about poor whites, poor blacks, poor Latinos, poor anybody, that they're being replaced by even cheaper labor? And if you wonder why we lost all our manufacturing and why the jobs got shipped over to China, is because back in the beginning of the industrialization of China, they had very, very cheap labor. Well, now labor's becoming more expensive, and so they sent a lot of that labor to Vietnam. Well, now Vietnam's getting expensive. Well, now you can, instead of sending the raw materials over to wherever and having a product built and having the product shipped back for sale here in the United States, they're bringing the laborers directly into the United States. Then they bring the manufacturing back to the United States so they don't have to pay the tariffs. And the difference is now, instead of being an American corporation that is overseas, located, like, for example, in Thailand or anything like that, with foreign workers that want more money, now they're bringing the corporations back so they don't have to pay the tariffs, and they're bringing the workers here, and they're paying them either extremely poorly under the table, or they're paying for them correct pricing, but the rental units and the business owners and somebody buying a bus and transporting them and other people are taking advantage of them. And this is a young gal that she said, this is what I'm experiencing. She's one of the people, she's a mother. So obviously she's on assistance because she's a single mom, surprise there. And she's getting kicked out of her apartment. She said she pays about $775 a month in rent now. She said what they do is these landlords are telling them, we're going to renovate your building, move out, we're going to renovate it, and then you can come back. And so what's happening is these people are getting kicked out, it's getting renovated, and then they're renting it to 10 immigrants at 5 or 6 times the price. I'm going to let her, we're going to play this and you can.
And everything else, while everybody else has to work for that before you even come in.
How long have you been living here in Springfield?
In Springfield itself, over 7 years.
7 years?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the rapid influx of Haitian migrants that have moved in around the neighborhood?
Honestly, I'm not a fan of it, just for a simple fact. See how that trash can is right there?
Right there, yep.
Okay. Every Haitian house you go around, it's honestly filled to the brim. There's trash that leaks out onto the corner, everywhere, but we're expected to live clean environment.
Sure.
And it's kind of hard to do that with that. And then on top of that, with the rise of immigrants and they get assisted living freely, it makes it harder for people like me or somebody else who doesn't get assisted living to find affordable housing at a decent rate.
Are they driving the housing costs up around here?
Yeah. Like nobody.
Big time?
Yeah, like.
What are we talking?
Okay. Honestly, in my opinion, it'll be a surprise if I don't get kicked out so they can boost up the rate on this place. They'll probably fix it,
I see.
get it where it's looking better, and boost the rate up on it. They pay $1,200 a month, and I pay $775
$775.
because it's not fixed up.
Got it. So how are the Haitians making enough money to outprice everyone that lived here before
Well,
them?
you get assisted living, you get food stamps, you get government help with vehicles and everything else, while everybody else has to work for that before you even come in.
That's all government aid these people are getting.
That's honestly all government aid. You can honestly go to the food stamp office. You go over there for food stamps, you're going to sit there. If you're there at the time they open, there's already a line that's all the way back outside of the building just to go in.
Okay.
And they're all full of Haitians. There's a small line for people that speak English, and honestly, you'll see maybe 10 people that speak English going to the food stamp office nowadays because of it.
Do you think you'll get driven out of this house?
Honestly, I'd be surprised if I don't.
Okay.
That's honestly my honest opinion, because they get a higher rate just because they fixed it half-assed. So if they do it on here, they'll get a higher rate.
So the landlords are capitalizing off of them being able to pay the government benefit pricing they can afford?
Yep.
Driving out locals, OGs like you?
Yeah, they've been doing it around here quite a bit. So, and honestly, the neighborhood is, it's gotten a lot of Asians in it here recently. So.
When did you notice the big
You know, it's very easy. It's very easy to. Young people today are pissed off, and they say that capitalism doesn't work. That's what they're being taught in the schools. And they say, I can't afford anything anymore. And capitalism has failed. Capitalism works great. What's happening is the government's giving money to some people and not others, and it's creating this imbalance. If I'm renting a place for $1,000, and that's kind of the going rate, because if I charge too much, people don't rent from me. And if I charge too little, well, I've got someone renting, but I know I could make more money. And so the market correctly levels itself out, and it finds its own symbiotic state, like stable point in the town. But when you start giving government assistance and free food to some people, and free housing, or at least assistance towards housing, and free vehicles, and well, there are people that are going to say, okay, I'm going to take advantage of that, because if the government's giving everybody $500, or half the people $500, or $750, I'm just going to increase my rent $750. So now I'm going to charge $1,750. Now the person that's living there that has the government assistant is still paying $1,000, the same that this woman might be paying. But on top of that, they're able to take the extra $750 that they get from the government, which is our tax dollars. And inevitably what it does is it allows immigrants and people that are coming to this country to actually live better than the people that are already here, that have paid into the system or are born here and are citizens here. The immigrants are doing better because they are given first priority over citizens. And then the landlords and the people selling cars and the businesses that are hiring them, they do better because they're collecting the government assistance that they're giving. So it's really our tax dollars are going directly to the landlords, directly to the manufacturing. That's basically because it's going from us to the Haitians to these landlords and everybody else. So we're directly paying for this. So we're directly paying for immigrants to do better than the citizens of the towns that actually are here. And this is, this is a story from September 7th from the New York Post. Animal sacrifices are on the rise in Queens with chickens, pigs. They're being put in twisted rituals.
Hello there.
They say animal sacrifices are surging in Queens, New York. That is a borough of New York City. Chickens, pigs, and rats.
Hello there.
In twisted religious rituals in parklands surrounding Jamaica Bay, the Post has learned. In little over a month, at least 9 wounded animals or carcasses have been discovered in the federally managed Spring Creek Park in Howard Beach and the Jamaica Bay Wildlife Refuge in Broad Channel, including 5 live pigs with partially severed ears. Creatures recovered from the revolting scene also included a near-dead baby rat tied up in a bag with chicken bones, freshly decapitated chicken head, a live hen in distress, and a dog with its neck snapped. This is what I'm talking about when I say if you're going to bring in people with a very, very different way of life than us, you have to do it in very, very small amounts, very, very slowly, to the point where they can't form their own community, that they're almost individuals, and that they don't fit in if they continue their old way of life. And if that bothers you, I don't know what to tell you. You must, because otherwise you end up, if you watch the movie Gangs of New York about the 5 points in New York City, what happened? You had the Irish fighting the Catholics, fighting other groups, and then as later in time there was the Italians. You ended up getting the mob. You know, still have Jewish communities down on Fifth Avenue in New York that never integrated in with society, and generation after generation, they continue the old ways, as it were. And what they're doing now is they're bringing in far too many communities, far too many with such large, vast differences in societies, and they're not integrating. And this is going to be a culture clash permanently. And so none of what's going on right now is capitalism. It's cronyism. It's government handouts. It's swinging the system wildly by giving certain people some money and other people no money. This is, we haven't done capitalism in the United States at least since the Federal Reserve was formed and they started controlling the money policies. And they're continuing to go crazier and crazier with this until the point is it all starts falling apart. And that's what's happening. These are just some headlines I'm going to touch on. This is from March 6th. 2 men in Nebraska killed and planned to eat an American bald eagle. From SCNR News, influx of Haitian migrants sparks frustration, safety concerns in Ohio town. Now, this is a gentleman who works with the homeless. Instead of like giving you a preamble, I'll just let him play. I'll just let him say what he needs to say in his own words.
The homeless problem. I don't know of a single homeless Haitian in this town because they all got vouchers. But I can show you a whole bunch of people that have been displaced because I'm that guy. Rob, you know, for 25 years I've worked with the homeless in this community. You know, a lot of people don't know because I'm not the guy out there blowing the horn because it ain't about me. It's the Jesus in me that goes out there and does it. Trust me, there's days I'm tired. But I'll get into homeless camps that nobody in a suit and tie will walk into. None. They trust me because I've never let them down. You know, and guys, if you don't think it's here right now, in October, we are getting ready to hit a wall here. There is not any relief for the homeless. The homeless people in this community are not the people you think they are. The squatters that aren't happening. It's not there. There's veterans. Come see me. I'm not real hard to find. Ask anybody on the street. They'll tell you how to get a hold of me. I'll take you there. And no, they don't want your toothpaste and your peanut butter sandwiches. They want you to come up with a solution to why they're displaced, why they lived in a house. I personally know, and I'll testify under oath, my hand to God, somebody that lost their house. They were there 7 years. The landlord said, hey, I need you to move out, find a temporary place. I'm going to remodel it, and then you can come back.
Thank you, Baron.
It was a lie. They moved them out, tripled the rent.
Thank you.
Follow
Thank you for speaking.
the money.
He says it exactly right. Follow the money. Follow the money. So now you've got people that were living on assistance, the poorest of our country, the poorest people in our country are now the ones that are being kicked out, are now the ones going hungry, are now the ones that have no opportunity for improvement because our government is giving handouts to those coming into the country illegally. They're being given the handouts And now they're replacing people. And if we just take the immigration portion out of this, if there's a bunch of farmers that are farming in Idaho and a bunch of people from, I don't know, Mississippi decided to get in busloads, drive up there, and they all agreed to work for less money, and now the people that were working those jobs are fired to give to these other people because they'll work for less, and now you've got a homeless crisis up there, I don't think it's any different. I mean, what makes this so particularly bad is that we're inviting the replacements. We're allowing the replacements to come in. We're paying the replacements to do the replacing. That's what so many people have issues about. It's not just the crime. It's not just the inability to work together in a cohesive society. It's that we're hurting our own poor at the hands of other poor that are coming here to take advantage of it. This is that same gentleman again. I won't bring it up full screen because there's no need to. I'll just zoom him up here a little bit. And he will reiterate the issues that he's seeing.
Our wives and our grandmothers and our children are scared to go to the store because of the recent Haitian influx. It's out of control here. It's a big tinderbox. The traffic accidents, there's people that are scared to travel on this road out in front of us here because there's a lot of Haitians here who are wrecking daily, and they're scared. And it's a real concern. Those are the real things, not the sensationalism of, pets being eaten. But here we are. Now we have the world's attention. Let's focus on the things that are really happening here.
I want to bring this point up quickly. He said it's not about the sensationalism of the pets being eaten, but now we have the attention. Now the eyes are on us. Now people are listening to us. So now let's do something about it. So you can call Trump an idiot. You can call him a misinformed asshole. You can call him crazy for saying the dogs and the cats are being eaten in Springfield, Ohio. But in that debate, because of what he said, all eyes turned to Springfield, Ohio. And now it's getting the attention it needed. In Palestine, Ohio, interestingly enough, Ohio as well, when that train car tipped over and dumped all those chemicals in the middle of Palestine, Ohio, there was nothing really on the news. No one was doing anything about it. Now, there were several of us that were talking about it on Twitter, on X. We were talking about it, but the government didn't do anything. Biden didn't do anything. There was no news attention. And what happened? Trump started talking about it. Trump put in pallets of water, and Trump said, I'm going to Palestine, Ohio, and all the cameras followed him, and it put a spotlight on Palestine, Ohio. And then after that, 2 weeks later, Pete Buttigieg decides to go. And then after that, the Biden administration says they're going to say something. Then after that, it becomes a national story. We can make fun of Trump for being silly and ridiculous, saying the cats and the dogs are getting eaten, but he put an eye on Springfield, and now everybody is seeing the problems with Springfield. That's why people joke around about Trump's 4D chess, because he has a way of forcing people's attention on something, and it becomes the Streisand effect. And for those of you that maybe aren't American or aren't familiar, because you may have heard the Streisand effect, this is named after Barbara Streisand, a Hollywood actress. And somebody flew a drone by her house and took a picture and shared it and said, hey, look at this mansion, or look at this. I don't remember the exact story, but it was, look at this house. And Barbara Streisand came out and said, hey, that's my house. Take down that photo. Stop paying attention to it. Ignore the house, everybody. And she went viral. And before you know it, everybody was looking at Barbara Streisand's house. And they were talking about Barbara Streisand's house. And they were asking what the big deal is about Barbara Streisand's house. And everybody's eyes were on Streisand's house. It's called the Streisand effect because no one was paying attention to it. And then she made a stink about it. And everybody said, I didn't even know about this. I'm going to look into it. That's exactly what Trump did to Springfield, Ohio, with his cats and dog comment. Because Twitter, all I see on Twitter, from every news agencies, from everybody talking today, is debates and Springfield, Ohio. This is why many people say he's an unstable or stable genius, because he knows how to get the cameras to point to where he wants them to. And I think it's a great thing that he did. So we can laugh at him about his comments, but he did the exact right thing and is bringing attention to people struggling because of the very thing that we've been talking about.
20,000 plus immigrants have come to our city, and we can't communicate with them. We're overwhelmed. Give us a little bit. We wouldn't even be having this conversation right now if there was only 5,000 of them. We would have welcomed them to our community, develop programs to where we teach them how to speak and drive, and let them know that it's not okay to go to our public park and just grab a goose to take home for dinner. That's how it was in your country. It's not that way here.
So this is a gentleman that works with the homeless. He's lived in the area. He deals with this issue on the ground level. This is somebody that is involved, as we heard from himself, because he called the city councilor or whoever he was talking to by first name. And he said, look, we've been here. You know what I do. This is as close to as you can get to ground level. Not just one opinion, but a man that works with homeless, with these issues. And he's confirmed they're grabbing geese and ducks from the park. He's confirmed they can't drive, that there's accidents. People don't feel safe driving in town anymore. He's confirmed that people are getting kicked out of their homes. Citizens, American citizens, born, raised, bred right here, are getting kicked out of their housing for illegal immigrants. We're hearing that illegal immigrants are being taken advantage of by landlords, by business owners that are using them for labor, by people that are transporting them. So in many ways, the Haitians that are coming here are better off than where they were before, but they're still being taken advantage of. And American citizens are being taken advantage of. And our taxes are being taken advantage of. This is what makes so many people angry with the immigration problem. It's not, oh, they have brown skin. It's not that they're all criminals. But there are hundreds of, if we bring in 20 million, which is kind of the unofficial number that many people are guessing they've done in just the last 4 to 6 years. If we've brought in 20 million, what are the odds that 10% are criminals, 20%? I'd say that's pretty fair. That means we've got 2 to 4 million new criminals. And then of the other 18 million that do just want to be here, you're going to run into problems. I'm going to go just a couple more headlines here, and then I'll wrap it up. Charlie Kirk says, our frontline TP USA team visited Springfield, Ohio today. Everyone they spoke to has heard stories of people's pets being eaten, as well as ducks and geese disappearing. Residents describe it as a tinderbox and a time bomb ready to go off. This is from Springfield News. This is Springfield News and Sun. Springfield Mayor, investigation into businesses and immigrations continue. They're now looking into some of these businesses. He said Springfield is saturated. They don't have enough supplies. Now, here's the criminal, and I'll just click down through these because I've talked about it before. So I've been talking about this, the Aurora, Colorado gang members. Well, they found a couple of them. They arrested a couple. Remember, this wasn't happening. It went from it's not happening to actually it's happening. Suspected Tren de Aragua gang members in Aurora, Colorado were arrested. And then they were released on a $1,000 bond. So the people that are going into these apartment complexes, shaking people down for money, carrying guns, threatening people, threatening the manager, that if he didn't give up some of his money to these gangs, they arrested a couple of them. And they were released. This isn't Johnny, the local homeless guy that sometimes steals a Snicker bar and gets the cops called on him and he gets released. That's not what this is. These are illegal immigrants here without ID, suspected to be in a gang, that have done something wrong, and they're released on a $1,000 bond. This is from James O'Keefe. Internal documents reveal the U.S. military and law enforcement are in panic over the expanding threat of Venezuelan Tren de Aragua illegal migrant gangsters. They're taking over New York neighborhoods. Around 400 are also established in the Bronx, in Brooklyn, and in Williamsburg, Pennsylvania, I imagine. I think Williamsburg is in Pennsylvania. They say it is the largest criminal organization in Venezuela. Remember when Trump said Venezuela is opening its prisons, and that's why crime is so low, because Venezuela has opened its prisons and sent all of them here.
Tren de Aragua, expanding threat across New York City. The document states that Tren de Aragua has established a presence in Brooklyn, Bronx, and Williamsburg, New York. Approximately 400 TDA members live in those cities. Tren de Aragua, known as TDA, criminal organization members in Denver have been given a green light to fire on or attack law enforcement in Denver, Colorado. HSI New York reportedly received a similar report. O'Keefe Media has obtained controlled unclassified information known as CUI, distributed by the U.S. Army of the North Division, about Tren de Aragua, one of the largest criminal organizations in Venezuela, with an estimated 5. The distribution of the CUI document comes after videos showing National Guardsmen in subway stations and establishing a presence throughout New York City.
National Guard is now all over Brooklyn, man.
Why is the Army at this hotel?
We're here at the request of the state control.
It has been confirmed through the documents provided to us that Tren de Aragua, the criminal organization, has active members in Denver and have been given a... Denver news comes on the heels of videos of Venezuelan gang members rushing into apartment complexes in Aurora, Colorado in August of this year. The document states that the Tren de Aragua members are 57 miles from West Point. West Point is the nation's first established military academy located in West Point, New York. CUI stands for Controlled Unclassified Information, which is information that the government or other entities possess or create that is defined as sensitive. CUI is not classified, but it does require safeguarding and dissemination controls. The document states, quote, "This information is an anti-terrorism, force protection, and law enforcement action officer's tool and should be used for situational awareness only. This information may not be released to the media." The TDA's expansion amidst the Venezuelan refugee crisis has led to violent incidents, including recent attacks on military installations. For the sake of protection of military installations and personnel, the document states, quote, "Coordinated efforts between local, state, federal law enforcement, and the military are crucial. We've reached out to the Army for comment. We await their response. We will put their comment in the thread below."
So you might be asking yourself, why don't they just round them up, arrest them, and kick them out of the country? Well, it's simple. What happens when crime gets so bad in the United States and these criminals get so bad in the United States that the local police can't handle it? Now you have to call in the National Guard. Now you have to call in the military. Then to keep you safe, we're just going to leave those military outposts and these military personnel in your town. And if things get out of control, who says they don't take over the law enforcement? Make it national law enforcement. I think there's part of people or a group of people, and I'm not sure how I feel on this yet, but there's a group of people that start feeling like they want crime to get so bad that the government makes crime bad. The people in desperation beg the government to do something about it. The government creates something new to control all people. Digital IDs, location trackers, facial recognition. This is the kind of stuff that makes you wonder, is this what they're doing? Are they going to make things so bad here that people ask for the government to take control? From the post-millennial, MS-13 gang member, illegal immigrant allowed to enroll in Maryland high school while facing charges for murder of 20-year-old Kayla Hamilton. An MS-13 gang member, and he's been allowed to enroll in a Maryland high school. What are we doing? What are we doing? And this is from a week ago. Colorado law firm report claims Venezuelan gang has stranglehold on apartments takeover. Takeover began in 2023. Remember, I reported on this. Others reported on this. And at the time, it was, this is not happening. There's no official statements. There's no police statements. The mayor's saying this isn't happening. Now it's national news. Now everybody's talking about it. Remember President Trump talking about eating the dogs in the Springfield. This isn't happening. There's no official statements. Police hasn't said anything. It doesn't matter what the police say. It doesn't matter what the mayor says. It doesn't matter what the government says. It matters what people on the ground say. This is why the elite media, whether it's Australia's now threatening 5% of Twitter and other social media's income based on if they allow misinformation to spread. In other words, if Australia claims Twitter's spreading misinformation, they're allowed to sue them or seize 5% of their income. Why would they do that? What are they so afraid of? They're afraid of the truth getting out. Same thing in Brazil. Same thing in Venezuela. Same thing in the United States. Same thing during the elections. Same thing during COVID. Same thing. All these things, the government must have control over the narrative, over what you're allowed to hear. You're not allowed to hear anything they don't want you to hear. And that's how the news has been since the 1950s. But now, because of investigative journalism and because of people like James O'Keefe, where's my thumbnail on that? Like James O'Keefe here, James is buying, a couple $100 cameras off Amazon and shipping them to people and having on-the-ground news reporters, on-the-ground people. Charlie Kirk and some of these others are going to these towns and saying, please tell us what is going on. And because these individual people do not have the money or the power or the backing to make their own CNN, to make their own whatever, they do it on X, they do it on YouTube, they do it on Rumble. Except YouTube is now starting to take some of this down as misinformation, disinformation. But it's allowed to stay up on X. It's allowed to stay up on Rumble. Why is France going against Rumble and X? Why is Great Britain? Why is Brazil? Why is Venezuela? Do you see a common truth here? It's because the journalism and the reporting and the truth is allowed to get out, and they can't have that. Which is always why I recommend. So, and I'm not going to get in my tirade, but I am going to say this every video probably for the rest of time. Support Rumble, support X, support the content creators that bring this to you. Because if they rely on mainstream commercials and mainstream media and mainstream advertisers, they're going to try to get choked out because they don't want you knowing the truth. Please just remember that. This is 6 minutes. I am going to let this play through in its completion. Let me see. Maybe I can speed it up to 1.25 just so we can get through it a little bit faster. This is the best way to explain why immigration will fail and why we're actually doing a net negative by allowing immigration instead of keeping things the way that they are.
Some people say that mass immigration into the United States can help reduce world poverty. Is that true? Well, no, it's not. And let me show you why. This gumball represents the 1 million legal immigrants that the United States has taken every year on average since 1990. Now, who in the world deserves our humanitarian compassion? The World Bank has one measure of the desperately poor of the world. They make less than $2 a day. And how many people make less than $2 a day in the world? We'll start with Africa. In Africa alone, there are 650 million people who make less than $2 a day. 650 million. And in India, another 890 million people, desperately poor. China adds another 480 million people, making less than $2 a day. And unfortunately, the rest of Asia has a heartbreaking 810 million people who the World Bank says make less than $2 a day. And finally, there's 105 million of Latin America's population that are desperately poor. All told, the World Bank says there are 3 billion people in the world. 3 billion people who are desperately poor, making less than $2 a day. That's 3,000 gumballs. And every year, we take 1 million and suggest that we've somehow made a humanitarian difference. Of course, we don't pull our immigrants from these desperately poor populations, do we? These people are too poor, too sick, too disconnected to make it here as immigrants. We tend to pull our immigrants out of the better off poor of the world. And Mexico tends to define the type of immigrant that we bring here because the plurality of people come from Mexico. And Mexico is poor. How many people in the world live in countries that have average incomes lower than that of Mexico? And the World Bank tells us that that number is these 3 billion plus another 2.6 billion people. 5.6 billion people in the world who live in countries with average incomes below that of Mexico. That's 5,600 gumballs. And
now, this being less than Mexico, 5 billion people, you can't fix that. It'd be nice if we could. It'd be wonderful, but you can't fix that. This is when the people that tell you to eat the bugs, you will eat the bugs and you will own nothing and be happy. These are the people that they're saying are overpopulating the globe. I know that sounds horrible. I know that sounds terrible. These are the people that the world powers tell you are overpopulating. And it's almost the Thanos finger snap type of fix, where these people will never, they're sick, they have poor lives, they have to grind to survive. It would be more merciful to remove them. It'd be more merciful to remove them from the planet. And then the planet can thrive. It'll just be the strong countries, the intelligent countries, the ones with capital, that we can then slowly expand across the globe. That's the way they put it. But in the same token, you have to do a finger snap and wipe out half of the world, more than half, because this is just what's poorer than Mexico. So I know he's going to talk about this, but I want to say this ahead of time so I don't need to stop him again. We tend to take the best and the brightest, the best of India, the best of China, the best of Latin America, the doctors and engineers, as the joke goes. And we incorporate them so that we can use their culture, their ideas, their view of the world to help us fix the rest of the world. That can be done. But when you bring in so many that you break the system, we can no longer help the rest of the world. We just become as messed up and as troubled and as struggling as the rest of the world. And in whole, that will do worse for the rest of the globe versus helping the rest of the globe.
So what is it that the elites are telling us? They're telling us that when we take this 1 million immigrants, that we somehow or another are tackling world poverty. And we have to do it regardless of the effect on our unemployed, the working poor, the most vulnerable members of our society, regardless of the effect on our natural resources. Even if we went by the most radical proposals in Washington, which are to actually double our immigration to 2 million a year, which would totally overwhelm our physical, natural, and social infrastructures, we couldn't make a noticeable difference. And we may be really hurting the impoverished people of the world because the million that we do take are among the most energetic, often the better educated, certainly the most dissatisfied people that if they did not immigrate would be the agents for change to improve the lot of all the people in these countries. The true heroes in the global humanitarian field are the people in these countries who have the wherewithal to immigrate to another country, but instead stay in their countries to apply their skills to help their fellow countrymen. Unfortunately, our immigration system tends to entice these very type of people to abandon their countrymen. The impossibility of making even a dent is actually worse than it looks here. Because last year, when we took 1 million immigrants, these countries added, births over deaths, 80 million more people into the impoverished population. And this year, Congress is bringing in 1 million legal immigrants. And this year, according to the United Nations, these countries are expected to add another 80 million people. And next year, you can be quite sure that Congress, unless stopped by the American voters, will bring in another 1 million immigrants. And these countries, unfortunately, will be adding another 80 million people into these impoverished nations. We could take 5 million a year, but we'd never get ahead of what's happening in these countries. Not in this century. Don't you see? Immigration can never be an effective or significant way to deal with the suffering people of the world. They have to be helped where they live. 99.9% of them will never be able to immigrate to a rich country. There's no hope for that. They have to bloom where they're planted. The only place that 99.9% of these people can be helped is where they live. Let's help them there.
I think it's a beautiful video, and it is probably one of the best ones to remember if you ever have this discussion with anybody about immigration. It's the best one. It's his name again is Roy Beck. It's called Immigration and World Poverty Explained with Gumballs. It's not being cruel to say no more immigration. It's not saying that we don't want to help other people, but as he so eloquently puts it, we can bring in, he said there's in births, 80 million a year in births over deaths in these third world countries. Even if the United States continues to take 4 million a year, like we did over the last 4 years, and we have 16 to 20 million we've brought in, over those 4 years, if he says 80 million are born a year, that's 320 million that were born, and we took in 20. Europe took in, 10. We're still behind by hundreds of millions of human beings. We're not doing any favors to these people. We're hurting the people that are here. And as he says, I don't think that we're not necessarily just pillaging the best and the brightest anymore. We're also bringing in the worst, the criminals. The reasoning, the only reasoning I can figure is a couple things. Number one, they want to bring them in for voting, that they know they will vote left-leaning for the free handouts. And that will continue to leave the left, the fascists, the authoritarians, the totalitarians, it'll leave them in power. Number two, it will lead to financial collapse of the globe. And maybe those few rich will get even richer, but the rest of us will suffer immensely. Because there was a $2.7 trillion wage transfer from the poor to the rich during COVID. This will make that just go nuclear. It'll make it go even more insane. Third, I think they look at it as it's a pyramid scheme, meaning Social Security, our tax system, are supporting the elderly from the wages of the young is not working. It's going bankrupt. And by bringing in a bunch of workers, the young, they will be able to support the oldest of our society on their social programs without it going bankrupt. But eventually it will. You can only have the pyramid scheme go on for so long. And lastly, there will be so much damage to the country and the well-being of the citizens, and there'll be so much illegal crime, and there'll be so much violent crime by these illegals with legally purchased weapons, because they can get them here in many areas. It will advance the gun control laws and the federal government taking over, and it's the militarization of our police forces, and to bring in a pseudo-communist state like China. I really believe that. I think that is all part of their goal. I think that's part of the plan. And I don't think there's any way you can convince me otherwise. I just really don't.